Okay. Good morning. Thank you to all in attendance today. I'd like to call the February 26, 2024 meeting of the County of Perth Land Division Committee to order. I'd like to make note that what will be shown on the screen for those viewing at home is our remote meeting platform, whereby whoever is speaking will be shown predominantly, with smaller images of the members and staff attending along the edge of the screen. The agenda for this meeting hearing has been posted online at perthcounty.ca. If you want to follow along, please feel free to access it now. We'll remind all committee members, staff, and others participating in the meeting to please mute your microphones when not in use to reduce feedback. As this meeting is being held remotely, the Secretary Treasurer will call each of the members' names, and each member will respond if they are in favor or opposed to the opposition. The Chair will announce the result of the vote. Before we proceed, we'll confirm attendance of the committee members by roll call.
Councillor Aitchison?
Yep, here.
Councillor Chantowski?
Present.
Councillor McKenzie?
Here.
I think we lost Councillor McDermott. He was here. Chair Duncan?
Present.
Councillor McDermott was here, so I wonder if he's maybe having some tech problems.
Okay, well, I guess we'll wait and see if he joins us. Move along in the agenda while we're waiting on him. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Please declare now or at any time throughout the meeting. Okay, I don't see any. Confirmation of the agenda. I have a motion that the agenda for February 26, 2024 be approved. Moved by Councillor Aitchison, second by Councillor McKenzie.
Councillor Chantowski, how do you vote?
Yay, in favor.
Councillor Aitchison?
Yes.
Councillor McKenzie?
Yes.
Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Okay, that's carried.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion that the Land Division Committee approve the minutes from January 29th, 2024. Get a motion to put those on the floor. Moved by Councillor Chantowski, seconded by Councillor Aitchison. Questions or comments to those minutes? Not seeing any, we'll call for the vote.
Councillor McKenzie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Chantowski?
Yes.
Councillor Aitchison?
Yes.
Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Carried.
Okay. We have applications for consent. First one is B4523. John Bice will present. John?
Thank you, Chair and committee members. I'm just going to quick share my screen. All right, so the first application before you is application for consent B45-23. It's located at the northern portion of West Perth, located just south of Moncton there. It's 5545 Perth line 55. So when we're dealing with surplus farm dwelling severances, the provincial policy statement, the PPS, allows for lot creation in instances of surplus farm dwelling severances, provided that the new lot will be limited to a minimum size, and that minimum size is to accommodate for appropriate use of sewage and water services. The province's intent with this policy is to preserve agricultural land for future agricultural uses, while acknowledging the need to accommodate appropriate septic and well. So creating a large residential lot in the agricultural community sterilizes that agricultural land from future productivity. It doesn't matter if that land is currently used for cropping purposes or not. Removing unnecessary farmland for future production removes the ability of any future owner from farming it. The barn in this situation here and its surrounding land uses is considered additional land in excess of the need for the appropriate sewage and water services. Staff believe that the modification that staff have brought forward is necessary to comply with the PPS and the Perth County official plan. The proposed severed lots would have a lot area of about 1 hectare, which is about 2.5 acres. And then the proposed retained lands, as applied for, would have a lot area of about 36.8 hectares or 91 acres. The proposed staff modification produces a severed lot approximately 0.66 hectares or 1.64 acres. This is an approximate 0.84 acre reduction. So the Perth County Official Plan also outlines that the severed residential parcel must be kept in minimum size, just the same as the PPS. It also states that it may not include any more prime agricultural land than what is required for the residential use. As the existing barn is not a residential use and the owners have not have any distinct plans to convert from agricultural to a residential use, and the land the barn is situated on and the land surrounding the barn is considered prime agricultural land, staff's original modification is what we would be able to support at this time. After the severance is passed, the proponents would need to go through a rezoning application. They would need to go from agriculture to A1 for the severed parcel to allow for that non-residential dwelling or non-farm residential dwelling, that is. And then the area in red would need to be rezoned A3 to ensure no resident dwellings or mobile homes can be placed on that retained farmland. So notice of the application was provided to the neighboring property owners on January 15th, and notice of public meeting was provided on February 9th. No comments or concerns have been received at this time, but it is important to note that at the West Perth council meeting on February 20th, West Perth passed a resolution that the application be approved as submitted instead of incorporating the staff modification. This resolution would have the effect of removing a Perth County condition, being that the condition to modify made by staff. And this image here is of the dwelling that will be on the severed parcel. This image is of a large, it's not a barn, sorry, it's the sketch that it's the, if I go back here, it's the steel shed in the sketch. And that's inside the steel shed as well. This is the image of the barn. This image was taken looking south. And then this image was taken of the barn looking to the west. There's some horses there that will need to be removed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay. We have anyone looking to speak in favor of the application? Michelle, anyone online?
Yes, we have Andrew Phillips here.
Okay.
We should be able
Good
to hear you
morning.
now, Andrew. Oh, there you go. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. So yes, I'm agent for the applicant here. And the applicants are Brad and Megan Wolf, and they're cash crop farmers primarily. And they're asking you to approve the severance as they originally applied for it, which would include the barn being allowed to stay with the residents. And the Wolves, they're practical, common sense farmers. They don't want to see what they consider to be a perfectly good building torn down unnecessarily, is really where they're coming from. And we acknowledge the fact that the official plan calls for these residential lots to be a minimum in size, and there are good reasons for that. We don't want to start creating big estate lots in the country, 5 acres or whatever, that are gonna take good farmland out of production. In this case, my submission to you is that's not what's going to happen here. Like there's a good reason to keep that barn with the residents. If it's severed off and to go with the farmland, the likely result is the barn's going to be torn down and buried where it sits. That's the common practice in Perth County. And then the land where the barn sits would never be cultivated anyway. So we're really not taking any farmland out of production. And speaking with Mr. Wolf, he tells me that barn, it's not suited or large enough to store his cash crop equipment. And even if it was, he'd have to build a laneway about 30 feet wide up the west side of the boundary between the residential parcel and what will be the farmland parcel. And that's going to take about a half an acre out of production, which is defeating the purpose. If you drive around in the country in Perth County, you're going to see many houses that have garages and outbuildings with them. And the reason that people build those buildings is because you need to have equipment and things to live in the country. This house has no garage. The people who are likely to live in that house are going to have vehicles, maybe a tractor, snowblower, four-wheelers, snowmobiles, side-by-side, maybe a recreational vehicle, a travel trailer, or they'd want to put a workshop in that barn. Like there are lots of practical uses that someone living in that residence would put that barn into use rather than it be torn down. So my submission to you is that there's no actual negative impact to any party at all if the barn is allowed to stay and decommissioned for livestock and used by the resident of that dwelling. And it's noteworthy that West Perth Council voted in favor of allowing the barn to stay with the residents. And I'd urge you to take that into account when you vote. Take the wishes of West Perth Council into account. And those are my submissions, but I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions from the committee members? Councillor McKenzie?
Yes, I would maybe tend to disagree with Andrew Phillips on a couple items. I guess first of all, you talk about a place for them to place a tractor and a snow blower and a car and a truck or whatever. There is a shed there that's going to stay there, so that would solve that. The other point that I would like to make, and I could take you up the line that I live on and show you all kinds of property where there used to be a bank barn or a barn there, and now it's growing corn and soybeans. So, it is possible that can be done.
Okay. Any other committee members? Councillor Aitchison?
Can't remember when, but it was a while back. We talked at county council about the ability to try and save barns. We also talked about the ability for people to put a few animals on their separate lot, i.e. maybe a beef cattle or something for the freezer. A couple of horses, and I see there's horses here. There's more than a couple, but where are we at on that? Was that just fallen by the wayside, or? Because I noticed he is using the drive shed for storage for his horses by the looks of those gates in the inside picture. So, I'm not sure, if the barn was to stay, you'd want it changed so it was for storage only and probably not animals. So would the horses stay in the shed, or would the horses disappear, or what's going to happen there?
Planner Bice?
Yeah, thanks. Great question through you, Chair. So where we're at right now is there's been some different discussions with the future official plan policies. I can tell you if the horses were proposed to stay there right now, they would needed to submit an MDS calculation, which wasn't completed. As such, the recommendation, and it's not that recommendation isn't disputed, but to get a change of use permit for both the steel shed and the barn. If they were wishing to keep any sort of livestock on the severed property, it would need to be captured in the corresponding zoning bylaw amendment, which would occur after the fact.
Chair Duncan, the owners of the land have raised their hand to speak. Can I bring them into?
Yeah,
talk
yeah, go ahead
to
and bring
answer
them
that?
in.
Morning.
Morning, Brad.
Morning. Hey, so I just had a quick response in regards to the horses there. It is a tenant that's living at the property there now, and they've kind of moved horses in with kind of I let them say they could have a few, and that's why there's a few more there. They've kind of taken advantage of the situation. And the horses that are used in the shed, they use that as like a bit of a riding ring. They ride around barrels and stuff, and they've converted it for the winter to do their racing around barrels, but it's primarily not used for housing horses. It's just for kind of riding in the off season. And going forward, yes, there would not be horses on the property until it's allowed or if ever allowed. Um, but that's clearly not our intent in this situation.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Committee members, questions, comments? Councilor Trentowski?
Through you, Chair. So the current landowner said the future intent is not to have animals or horses there in the future. Did I hear that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor McKenzie?
Just further clarify Jim's question, where we're at, and I don't want to throw John under the bus, but and it came up at our West Perth meeting as well, and that's the clarification of where we are with the new official plan. Are we going to be allowed to keep a few animals on a severed lot or farmhouse in the country? That was certainly talked about when planning staff came around to the local municipalities. So I wonder if you could just re-clarify that.
Yeah, thanks through you, Chair. My understanding of where the future official plan policies are going would be similar to what they are now, which would be, we'd have to take MDS into consideration, and we'd have to essentially permit the specifics through the rezoning application that occurs afterwards. So there's an example I did, surplus farm dwelling severance in North Perth. They wanted to keep a chicken coop with about 8 to 10 chickens. So through that rezoning application, it was added as a permitted use to that. I think they use like an A68 or A62 zone for the severed parcel. So that was added as an additional use, which capped the chickens at whatever they had existed on that day, which was about, I think, 8 to 10. So, and in this instance, we'd have to figure out the nutrient management units for the horses. And then we would go in and apply the additional permitted use through the rezoning. That way, the municipality has an opportunity to discuss the livestock inclusions through their zoning bylaw amendment.
Thank you, John.
It's Andrew Phillips again. Could I just say a couple more things, please?
Yeah, I'll give you one more comment, Andrew.
Okay, thank you. Like now?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep,
Yeah, okay, sorry.
that's okay.
Yeah, so when we first engaged with planning and made the application, we weren't dealing with Mr. Bice, and the information that we got was that, you know, there really wasn't any way to apply where the horses would be allowed to stay in that building. And that's why we've applied the way that we have. I mean, if once the barn's gone, it's gone. You know, and if the future is that, you know, someone might be able to have a couple horses at a as part of a resident accessory to a residential use, or chickens or what have you, you know, that would be open to these people in the future to do that if and when it was allowed, and that's something I think should be considered. So that was my comment.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, anything more? John?
Thank you, through you, Chair. So the last comment I'll make is planning staff are not asking the barn to be removed. We're just asking for a change of use through that condition. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Councilor Aitchison?
I guess the only thing that concerns me about the barn not being removed, change of use, I got no problem with the change of use, don't get me wrong. Maybe the problem I has is taking up another half-acre drive or agricultural land to get a driveway back to it for right of way. Because it's gonna have to have a right of way if it's still standing there. I don't think that old West Steel grain bin's gonna hang around a long time. Scrap steel's worth too much to keep it standing because it's not really functional in today's ag world, but I guess that's my concern, is potentially putting another driveway in and you're gonna chew up a bit more farmland to boot.
Okay. I guess I got a couple comments I'm gonna make quick. So because of MDS, that barn is effectively sterilized for livestock use once we do this severance. So irregardless, if it's gonna stay there, it would either have to just stay there empty or have a change of use or be used for storage by the owner. So I look at it as, it's unfortunate that, you know, there's a potential to tear the barn down, but where do we start and stop with the size limits on this? We've struggled with this for a long time now, and at this point, if you look at our official plan, the provincial policy statement, that barn does not fit with this severance. It should stay with the agricultural. It's a big barn. This isn't, you know, especially when they already have, like, I'd say that driving shed's 40 by 60 or 40 by 80. So I guess I have a hard time, you know, leaving the barn with the severed portion. I think it should stay with the agricultural land. I do understand Mr. Wolf's concern, you know, like, I'm probably not going to use it. I'm probably just going to end up tearing it down. But I guess on the other hand, that's part of doing the severance on this property. I guess that's just part of the way it is, unfortunately. Any other comments or questions from the committee members? All right, I don't see any. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a motion out and we'll see where it goes. Motion I have here in the package is the Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever B4523 affecting lands legally described as Lot 4, Concession 16, Logan Ward, save and except Part 11, RS 23, ST LO 15523 in the municipality of West Perth, 5545, Perth line 55, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. Now I have one question. John, is that motion the modified conditions?
Yes, through you, Chair. One of the conditions is to modify. So the resolution that you just read would be to modify.
Okay, so everybody's clear that
with
that's
modification.
That's the modified report from staff to shrink the lot and leave the barn off. So I've read the motion. I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Councillor McKenzie's going to move it. Do I have a seconder? Okay, so I don't have a seconder. Oh, Councillor Trentowski, are you seconding or you have a comment?
I will second the motion so that it can be put on the floor for debate.
Okay. All right, so we have the motion moved and seconded. Questions, comments, debate. Councillor Trentowski?
I've listened to everyone's comments at this meeting and at the West Perth meeting, and I have trouble tearing down good structures with good utility. I understand that the footprint of the barn could be rehabilitated for productive agricultural use, but in this instance, I'm not convinced that it would be. I have difficulties supporting the planning staff's recommendation to shrink the size of the severance.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the committee members? Okay, seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. I'll have Michelle call the vote.
Councillor Aitchison, how do you vote?
No.
Councillor Trentowski?
I vote no.
Councillor McKenzie?
Yes.
Councillor McDermott?
No.
And Chair Duncan?
Yes,
That's
so that motion is defeated.
correct.
Correct. Okay, so now I guess the situation we're in now is I'll look for a motion from one of the committee members to move forward from here.
So just to be clear, Chair Duncan, so the motion we're looking for would be to move forward with the approval of the application as submitted?
As submitted.
As submitted, okay.
Okay. Do I have someone willing to put that on the floor? Councillor Aitchison, seconded by Councillor Trentowski.
Yes, I will second that motion to put it on the floor for debate and discussion.
Okay. And just so everybody's clear, that motion is application as submitted by the applicant. Any more discussion, comments, questions on that? I don't see any, so we'll call the vote. Oh, Planner Bice.
Sorry, through you, Chair. Perhaps wording can be included to remove the specific condition to modify as well.
Okay. So is everybody clear on that? We're gonna move the specific condition to modify from the motion. Okay. All right, I guess we'll call the vote.
Councillor Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Trentowski?
Yes.
Councillor McDermott?
Yes.
Councillor McKenzie?
No.
Chair Duncan?
No. That motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Move along to the next one here. Application for consent to sever. My apologies, I'm just B4323. John?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to share my screen again real quick. Okay, so the committee should be familiar with this one. This was brought and discussed at the committee meeting on January 29th. This application is B4323, located at 5728 line 34. So Like we had just previously mentioned in the last report, the provincial policy statement does allow for lot creation in instances of surplus farm dwelling severances, provided that the new severed lot will be limited to a minimum size needed to accommodate the use and appropriate sewage and water services. So again, the province's intent with this policy is to preserve agricultural land for future agricultural uses while acknowledging the need to accommodate appropriate septic and well. Again, creating a large residential lot in the agricultural community sterilizes that agricultural land from future productivity. It doesn't matter if the land is currently used for cropping purposes or not. Removing an unnecessary farmland from future production removes the ability of any future farmer from farming it. As the second driveway in this instance is considered additional land in excess of the need for appropriate sewage and water services, staff believe that the proposed modification is necessary to comply with the PPS and Perth County official plan. In this instance, the proposed severed lots as applied for would have a lot area of 1.49 hectares or 3.69 acres. The proposed retained farmland as applied for would have a lot area of 55.3 hectares or 136.6 acres. The proposed staff modification reduces the severed parcel by 0.7 acres to approximately 1.21 hectares or about 3 acres in size. So the applicants have submitted an alternative sketch after the last committee meeting that happened on January 29th. This alternative sketch to the original submitted, that is. So this alternative would produce a severed lot area of 1.25 hectares while adding an easement over the retained lands in favor of the severed lot for the owner's second driveway. Staff are of the opinion that this alternative would function the same as the original as applied for. Both applicants' options would produce a large area of land that would not be able to be used for agricultural purposes, unfortunately. As for the Land Division Committee's comments regarding the lot line from the well, these were great comments. It's always appropriate to consider the location of wells and septics on these parcels. However, there are no planning policies or legislation that would push a lot line away from an existing well. There are best practices which can be found within the Canada-Ontario Environmental Farm Plan. However, those best practices are applied to farm parcels predominantly that are much larger in size. These best practices don't typically consider surplus farm dwellings, which have drastically reduced lot sizes to consider. So the provincial policy statement also says that the severed lot will need to be limited to a minimum size to accommodate the use and appropriate septic systems. The property owners will need to go through a rezoning application as well. The retained farmland being rezoned A3, and then the severed parcel needing to be rezoned A1. Again, here's some images of the dwelling to the left, and there's an accessory building to the right, detached garage. Some more images. This is taken looking to the south. This is taken along the edge of the western edge of the house looking north. This is the existing driveway. This is the land that would be included in the modification. Again, the land looking to be included in the modification. This is looking to the west towards the original driveway. And this is just another view of the land that staff are recommending be removed from the severed parcel and added to the retained. Again, an image of the existing driveway. And then this is an aerial image showing how the land was previously cultivated prior to the addition of the second driveway. Should be noted here that detached garage was built with access using the existing driveway. Thank you very much.
Thanks, John. Okay, committee members? Councillor McKenzie?
Well, we've got some real dealies here today, is all I gotta say. I honestly have to struggle with this particular severance. And I'll refer when we first started granting farmhouse severances, and one of the first ones we did was in Perth South. And Jim can maybe fill me in again on the size of it, but it was just a little over an acre, and they wanted a little bit more than that. And again, it involved an old barn foundation or whatever. And anyways, it ended up nothing happening there. I think, we keep saying that we're wanting to preserve farmland, but we also got to keep in mind, like, we're not in this business to create estate lots. And when you get over a couple acres in size, basically that's kind of what we're doing. I think some of these severances are getting a little large. And I realize if you have a keyhole severance with a long laneway, you can't help it. And I take that into account. But and I do realize in this particular case, when that house was built, there was a reason for it being placed back there, and that is now coming back to haunt them. But I just have I got to struggle when I see these large severances coming in. That's my only comment.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McKenzie. Anyone else?
I'll just add a comment to Walter's comments there. So yeah, that first one was in Perth South. It's on Road 125 here. And it was kind of set in around the acre mark, and they wanted it just a little bigger so they could put a new house a little further off the road instead of within 40 feet of the road. And it did get turned down, and the applicant decided he wasn't going to go ahead with it and did nothing. You're 100% right, Walter. I struggle, and Walter is right. We've got two or three real dillies here today for land division. Like, I struggle with that last one with that barn, but this one here, like, the original one was 3.68 acres, and I honestly couldn't go with that in a million years. We have got it down to about 3, and that's a little more palatable. But my question maybe might be more, and Walter made the comment about length of driveway. This one is set back there a ways. What would be the actual acreage of that driveway back to the buildings? Would that be 3/4 of an acre? Or am I out in left field here?
So through you, Chair, the driveway itself would probably be less than that. For instance, the second driveway that we are considering removing or recommending removing with additional land also to the west is about 0.7 acres. So the driveway itself might be less than that.
I got no problem with your new layout there. That's far better than it was. But anyway, no, it is what it is.
Okay. Any other committee members with any comments, questions? Councillor Trentowski?
Thank you, Chair. In this instance, I do feel confident that with the staff's recommended treatment of this submission, that the proposed change would, the area impacted and the proposed change by staff, that could be, there's a reasonable expectation that, in my mind, that land could be rehabilitated into productive agricultural use. And there's a site photograph to that effect from recently taken within the last 10 years that would suggest that land could be returned back to useful agricultural production. So I will be supporting staff's recommendation in this instance.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I don't see any further questions or comments, so I have a motion that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B 4323 Van Nullen Report, and that the Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever B 4523 affecting lands legally described as part lots 8 and 9, concession 1, Logan Ward, as in R 98776, save and accept HWP 541 in the municipality of West Perth, 5728, line 34, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. Moved by Councillor Tantowski, seconded by Councillor Aitchison.
So that is with the reduced size, correct?
Yes.
Just want to
that's right.
verify.
Yeah, that's correct. Councillor McDermott, how do you vote? Maybe we'll go Councillor McKenzie. How do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Trentowski, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Aitchison?
Yes.
Councillor McDermott?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Chair Duncan?
Yes.
Okay.
That's carried. Okay, moving along. We have report B 4123. John?
Thank you, Chair. I'll share my screen again real quick. Okay, so this consent application is B 4123. Owners James Culligan and Janet Stewart. Their agent being Carolyn Baker. It's located, see the red star here. It's on the corner of Marlborough and Nelson Street, 140 Nelson Street in Mitchell, that is. So the application proposes to sever one new lot from the subject lands for the purpose of a single detached dwelling. The severed lot will be 482 meters squared in area and have a frontage onto Nelson Street. The proposed severed lot will support the construction of that single detached dwelling. The retained portion would be 574 meters squared, and it would remain the corner lot on Marlborough and Nelson. The lot contains an existing residential dwelling that is serviced. So this, a condition of consent for this severance would be that the owners obtain a minor variance. Relief is required and is considered appropriate as it allows for the gentle infilling of the neighborhood, reflects the existing conditions of the retained land, and provides adequate space for the owners to meet the intention of each of the exterior, interior, side yards, and lot frontage requirements. So those three minor variances, they can all be applied for under one application, and they are on the screen as shown. The property is designated residential on the Mitchell Ward official plan. The proposal is considered infill development as it intensifies the existing parcel. Through obtaining the required minor variance, spatial form and sizing of the proposal will be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Both the severed and retained lands meet the minimum lot area requirements in the West Perth zoning bylaw, and that's R2 zone. The proposed development aids in the municipality's goal of 15% of new housing units occurring through intensification. The proposed development would constitute 20.7 units per hectare within the density guidelines in the Mitchell Ward official plan for single detached developments. A condition of consent is that the owners obtain a development agreement. This is essentially to ensure that the property in the single detached dwelling is attached to municipal services. The financial securities are obtained for those services, servicing connections, to provide for access, to remove an existing shed, and to replant a number of trees that will need to be removed for the development. I also wanted to point out an additional condition that isn't normally included, and that's essentially based on Bell Canada's comments, and they've provided those comments on the proposal to seek 2 easements on the severed property to ensure that their existing infrastructure is maintained. This is condition number 9. So we are here at the Land Division Committee because we have received comments from the public, and these comments are shown on the screen here. And these comments were not supporting the application. And as that's over with, I can take any questions. Thanks so much.
Okay, thanks, John. All right. I'm gonna ask if we have anyone wanting to speak in support of the application. Michelle?
Yes, we have Carolyn Baker.
Okay.
Good afternoon to the chair and members of the committee. My name is Caroline Baker from Baker Planning Group, representing the owners. Mr. Weiss provided a very comprehensive summary, so thank you for that. I just wanted to add to the comments from the neighboring property. It's okay, it was jumped to panelist.
Are you there, Carolyn?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, I apologize. It jumped over from speaking to panelists, so I'll turn my camera on. I just wanted to speak to the neighboring property owners' comments. Certainly, we understand that change can be challenging when a new lot is proposed or new development beside them. But certainly the new lot proposed to be created through this application does comply with the zoning provisions within that site. So it does meet the minimum lot area and the lot frontage, the setbacks, and the overall lot coverage. So I did just want to note that. And further, the owners are in agreement with all the conditions proposed by staff. I can answer any other questions, should there be any from the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. No one else willing to speak in favor? Any to speak in opposition other than the previous documentation?
No.
Okay, thank you. Committee members? Questions, comments? Councillor Tantowski?
Through you, Mr. Chair, does the applicant have any comment or response to the citizen opposed about the concerns about flooding adjacent lots?
Carolyn, would you like to respond to that?
Certainly, through the chair, should the consent application be approved, in addition to the minor variance, any builder would be required to submit a lot grading and drainage plan along with their building permit application. And that would ensure that all post-development flows, meaning all stormwater, is satisfactorily addressed, that it's not directed to neighboring property owners. They might in fact see either an equal and or net improvement after that lot grading and drainage plan.
Okay, thank you. Does that satisfy your question, Councillor Tantowski?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that response.
Councillor Aitchison?
Was looking at that picture that John put up there, showed that Bell vault box out front. Is that on the boulevard? Because I assume when you showed me that, that's where one of the developments is going to be on that side of the house.
Through the chair, I can put that back up.
Yep, go ahead.
Here we go.
Yeah, that one
So
right
it's
there.
it's not on the municipal right of way. It is technically on the I guess it would be the severed properties boundaries. But yeah, it's close.
So it would be worked out in the because Bell wanted a easement, so that'll be worked out through that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments? Okay, I don't see any. So, got a motion here The Perth County Land Division Committee receives the application for consent to sever B4123 Culligan Report, and the Perth County Land Division Committee approves the application for consent to sever B4123 affecting lands legally described as Lot 274, Plan 339 in the municipality of West Perth, 140 Nelson Street, Mitchell, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. Moved by Councillor Aitchison, Councillor Trentowski. Any more questions or comments to the? Okay, call for the vote.
Counselor McDermott, how do you vote?
yes,
Counselor McKenzie,
yes,
Counselor Trentowski,
Yes.
Counselor Aitchison,
Yes.
and Chair Duncan.
Yes. That's carried. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks everyone. We'll move along to the consent file status report. Michelle?
Yes, let me pull up my proper, a lot of documents open here. Here we go. So, as usual, I'll just provide a quick highlight of the consent file status report. So as of, since our last report and as of February 15th, when I created this report, we've had 3 new consent applications. They are currently in process and 16 applications that are in process as well. Several that are waiting for delegated approval, which should happen today. No applications were approved through the delegated authority process, and 2 applications have received final approval for which a certificate of official was sent for registration. Currently, there are 7 applications that are on hold until the applicant and or their solicitor or agent can prepare additional materials or studies required. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions? Councillor Aitchison?
Seeing as I'm laid up, I have more time to read things in detail.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at new applications.
Mhm.
And I think it's just a technical glitch. There's applications for a severance from Dennis and Marie Feltz.
Correct.
And it's Township of Perth East, and at the bottom it says it's going to Perth South in April.
Oh.
I'm thinking maybe we might want to send that to Perth East.
You're correct. Perth East is where it needs to go.
I just thought, it's not a big thing, but I thought, well,
Yeah.
we might as well correct it now.
Yeah, I've just corrected that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, don't see any, so I got a motion that the Perth County Land Division Committee receives the consent file status report. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Aitchison. Call for the vote.
Counselor Trentowski, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Aitchison,
Yes.
Counselor McKenzie,
yes,
Counselor McDermott,
yes,
and Chair Duncan.
Yes. Okay. So we have no correspondence, we have no appeals, we have no other business, we have no closed session. Our next meeting date is March 25th, 2024. And I will get, Councillor McKenzie.
yes. This is under other business, and it's I guess it's a question for planning. So in this case, I guess John. Like we see these severances, and we've had a couple that were a little larger today, especially one, and it was approved. Is there ever a time where you have a severance that it couldn't be a severance because it would just be too large?
Through you, Chair, we haven't seen, personally, I haven't seen one that was so, I guess, outlandish that we've had to recommend denial. Denial recommendations, they can come. Usually we bring it to this point because we've had so many, back and forth with the applicant, right? We try to get it to a point where staff would be able to support it. So probably because of that, we've been able to, bring lesser and lesser square footage, or I guess a lot of area requirements. Like the Van Deulen one that was just approved, that one originally was applied for close to 5 acres, I think. So we've been able to drastically reduce those, and just by having conversations. But that being said, it's all about what the applicant wants and if they're willing to work with us on some of those things.
I'd like to
And
add too, I think that a lot of that, Councillor McKenzie, is hashed out in the pre-con process, that the planners are working hard with the applicant right at the beginning before the application even comes through to say kind of what would be supported and what wouldn't.
No, I go back to my original comments going back when we first started allowing surplus farmhouse severances. I think Matt was maybe on there, and certainly Jim was. And we wanted to keep them so tight, like a little over an acre. That was about it. And anything more than that, we had to really struggle. And we've come a long way since then, but some of them, just the way they're designed, are fairly large. And I can appreciate the work that planning staff does to get it down before we even see it. So yeah, they just tend to be, the trend is there that they tend to be getting larger and larger all the time.
Councillor Aitchison?
Oh, just further to Walter's comments. So yeah, you're right. Back in the beginning, if it was much more than an acre, it was just kicked to the curb. But then we started allowing, little garages and stuff because people needed a storage spot for, say, a tractor and a snow blower and their car, and and like John mentioned, like either an SUV or somebody said an SUV or something. But yeah, I understand the need to be a little bit bigger, and we did do one in Perth South early on, out towards Kirkton Way, and it was up in the 3-acre range, but that all had to do with geothermal. What I'm finding interesting is we haven't had a whole lot lately with geothermal. We've had a few out of Perth South, but seeing as you got no more natural gas expansion, and you've got wanting to eliminate natural gas by, I forget, was it 2035? You're going to come back, and some of these ones we have made smaller, you may have to make bigger, so we can put geothermal back in, because that might be the only way they can reasonably heat their homes. It's just something going forward, that's all. But I agree with Walter's comments.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. I don't know, maybe in the future, once planning staff gets kind of over some of these OP hurdles, maybe we could have a report brought back again showing us the current state of all of our surplus farmhouse severances and the sizing. And I know we had a report back a few years ago compiling it all, and maybe, like I say, maybe once planning staff gets over some of these other hurdles that they're working on, they're a little bit more important than this, maybe we could have another report brought back. Councillor Trentowski?
Through you, Chair, I may be thinking the opposite. Perhaps a report should be, if it hasn't been done already, a report should on this, on the issue that Councillor McKenzie has brought forward. If it hasn't been captured in the current official plan process, and now's the time to do it before the official plan comes into effect. Just if it's important enough to this committee now, then perhaps we should deal with it sooner rather than later, is my thought.
Okay. Have you ever seen the original report, Councillor Trentowski?
No, I have not.
Okay. Maybe planning staff could get that report to all the committee members again, the original one that was done. To start
Send the
with.
original one and then provide an updated.
And then maybe if
current one. Okay.
if we have time to, do you want a motion to that effect?
Sure. Yeah, that would be great. And then I can do some digging and see if I can find that report. I think it was prior to John and my time.
Yeah, I honestly can't. I've seen it too, Matt. I honestly can't remember how long ago that was.
Yeah, it was definitely in the last term of council. There's no doubt about that. I just can't remember the exact date either.
And it might have been earlier in that term of council.
Yeah, it could have been. Okay, so I'll take a motion to direct staff to send out the original report, and possibly if they can compile an update up to present. Somebody, Councillor Trentowski and Councillor Aitchison. Okay, and we'll get a vote on that.
Councillor McDermott, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor McKenzie,
Yes.
Counselor Aitchison,
Yes.
Counselor Trentowski,
Yes.
and Chair Duncan.
Yes.
Great.
Great, thanks everyone. All right, so I don't see anything else that we need to look at, so I'm gonna look for a motion to adjourn. Counselor McDermott, you haven't got to move anything yet. Can I get you? Moved by Counselor McDermott, second by Counselor McKenzie.
Great. Counselor Aitchison, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Trentowski,
Yes.
Counselor McKenzie,
Yes.
Counselor McDermott,
Yes.
and Chair Duncan.
Yes.